It's been a little over 2 years since I did my very first video talking about how Warner Brothers wants to do a solo Joker movie. In that time frame, I've been very open about my feelings toward this project, mostly because I haven't been super into the idea. But because I have no say in Hollywood, here we are in 2019 with Joker, from the director of Road Trip and the Hangover trilogy. A lot has been said about this movie already, even before its official release this past weekend. Some have praised it for being a cinematic work of art, and others have vilified it for being a potential rallying cry for just the worst kind of people. Now, because I'm a massive Batman fan, I just knew I was going to see this movie in theaters. There's just no two ways about it, even despite my misgivings. And because I'm an adult, I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt and wait until I actually saw the film before I gave a final opinion. Well, now the movie is out and I have seen it, so I can finally tell you that I think it was just okay. I guess. And honestly, that's the most disappointing thing about Joker. Spoilers ahead. So right off the bat, let me just say that on every technical level, Joker is incredible. The craftsmanship on display here is truly second to none. For one thing, this film just looks flat out amazing. Every frame is crafted with such care and intent. Any image from this movie could be its own poster. Even the scene of Robert De Niro and Mark Maron just staring at each other. Everyone in this movie is giving a career best performance. We've already heard a lot about Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker, but to actually see it on the big screen is really a sight to behold. The editing is smart and inventive. The soundtrack is very effective, with the exception of one song, which we'll get to a little bit later. And the overall look and feel is just unbelievable. Joker actually feels like an old 80s crime movie, like the Scorsese movies it's trying to emulate. It captures that feeling very well. It is without a doubt a very well crafted film. You'll get no argument from me with regards to the way it was made. It's just that the story, characters, tone, and intent of the picture don't really work all that well. And as a result, the movie ultimately does fail in what it sets out to do. Joker doesn't want to be a typical comic book movie. We already knew this. It wants to be more like a movie like Taxi Driver or The King of Comedy. A dark and gritty character study of a mentally unstable man going off the rails. But it doesn't offer anything new or unique to say about this particular trope, about comic book movies in general, or about the character of the Joker. If you've seen one movie like this, you can pretty much guess where this movie is gonna head. If this movie wasn't called Joker, if it truly was divorced from the DC license, then it would just be another average film about a mentally unstable man who goes off the deep end one day. But by attaching itself to the pedigree of the Joker, one would expect it to have something to say about comic book supervillains and their true appeal, but it doesn't really say anything. It doesn't subvert our expectations of who the Joker is or what comic book movies could be about. It's really just a comic book movie that's done in a less flashy way than we're used to. And what it does have to say really isn't all that clear. I think Joker is supposed to be about what happens when a man gets betrayed by society and the system and finally goes crazy. I mean, Joker pretty much says that verbatim in the climax of the movie. But I feel like the film wants to have it both ways. It wants to portray Arthur Fleck as a sympathetic man who unwittingly becomes a cult hero while also portraying him as a monstrous villain. And the film waffles back and forth between the two extremes depending on what that particular scene needs at the time. The same goes for the other characters in the movie. Frances Conroy's Penny Fleck is shown to be a very kind, if mentally unwell woman, before it's revealed she was really abusive toward her son. Brett Cullen's Thomas Wayne is portrayed as a tough, mean-spirited character until the scene where he reveals the truth about Arthur's mother. The movie really wants you to hate Thomas Wayne, but by that point, you start to sympathize with him. He's just trying to protect himself and his son from this crazy person who has been stalking them the past few days. Robert De Niro's character, Murray Franklin, is set up to be something of an antagonist to Joker, his one-time idol who now acts like a bully towards him. when Joker confronts Murray on his show and berates him, Murray flat out says, "You don't know anything about me," which is true. We don't know anything about him. We, the audience, only know what the Joker sees in Murray, and now we're supposed to sympathize with him right before he dies. Really, the only character you could have any real sympathy for is Zazie Beetz' character, but she's not in the movie all that much. And even when she is, we don't really see her. We just see how Arthur sees her for the longest time. We don't see the real her until more than halfway through the movie. And when we do get to see the real her, we don't get to see her ever again. Her fate is ultimately left unresolved and ambiguous. We don't know what happens to her. That's part of what I mean about intent. Who are the good guys of this movie? Who are the bad guys? Who are we supposed to have sympathy for? The movie doesn't really answer those questions. It just shows us a man doing increasingly violent things. It wants to be something more. It bangs on and on about how the system can keep a person down, how the rich are the real bad guys, but it doesn't offer any solutions or hot takes beyond that. Unless, of course, you count murder as a solution, in which case, yeah, I guess it does advocate that. That's a pretty hot take. I mean, that would fit very well with the tone of the movie. It is very dark and bleak and depressing. Except, of course, for those few moments when it tries not to be dark and bleak and depressing, and it's just, I don't know what it is. There are certain parts in the movie that try to go for a joke or try to be a little bit more lighthearted, but they clash with everything else that happens in the film. Because of this, when something legitimately funny happens on screen, we don't know how to react to it. The funniest thing that happened during this movie was when my friend Alex texted me this picture. And this is just comedy gold, if you ask me. There's a scene towards the end of the movie that's actually a very good example of this tonal disconnect. By this point in the film, Arthur has done some pretty terrible things, some truly unforgivable things. He finally puts on the Joker makeup and the full costume, and then he dances on the steps to Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll Part 2. It doesn't play like a man becoming a monster. It plays more like the triumphant celebration of a man embracing his true self. Side note, it was at that point I realized I actually haven't heard Rock and Roll Part 2 in a very long time. I mean, they don't play it at sporting events anymore, mostly because Gary Glitter was convicted twice of being a very bad person. So ultimately, Joker is a very well-made film whose craftsmanship is wasted on a nothing story. And it's a shame because this could have been something very interesting. Instead, it only thinks it's interesting. It really is that kid in high school who listened to one Rage Against the Machine song and now all of a sudden knows everything about the real world, man. That's Joker in a nutshell. Maybe it would have worked better if it actually leaned into more of the conventions of the source material. Instead of being embarrassed by the fact that this was a comic book, embrace it, learn from it. Sprinkle in some characters or other locations from the source material to help flesh out the world better. Think about it, something as simple as replacing Thomas Wayne with Batman could go a long way. You can have Batman be the reason Arthur loses his job. You can have Batman be the reason Arthur's life ultimately takes the turn. It would offer a different and unique take on the dynamic between those two characters, and it could be very interesting. As I've said previously, the best Joker stories are not about the Joker. They're about how the Joker affects the world around him. And while this movie does touch upon that a little bit, it barely scratches the surface. Something as simple as adding Batman to the movie could help dive deeper into this aspect of the character. And besides, it's like the Joker said,
without Batman, crime has no punchline.
So ultimately, Joker is a solid meh from me. I didn't hate it, but I'm not exactly in love with it. I'm glad I saw it, but I'm not in a rush to go out and see it again. And honestly, I'd be okay if I never did. Of course, I'm sure you at home will be very happy to tell me what you thought of the movie either down below or anywhere on the internet. And I'm sure you will do so in the nicest way possible. For what it's worth, I don't think this movie is going to inspire anybody to go out and commit clown-related crimes, much like how I don't think video games cause people to go out and shoot other people. I will say you should probably do your best to prevent your one crazy friend with the radical ideas from seeing this movie, just to be on the safe side. You know which friend I'm talking about. We all have that one friend. And of course, don't forget that we have new videos every Tuesday and Wednesday, with Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern being Wolf Den Live. So subscribe to see all of that, like this video, and share with a friend who also lives in a society. I'm really not exactly sure what that meme means. All I know is it has something to do with the Joker, somehow, for some reason. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.